We'll wait a few seconds before we start. How about that? Come on my lap. Hey, baby. All right. Yes, Mona. We're going to wait a few seconds and see that we have people, and then we'll get started. Hello. Welcome to this live stream. Gonna wait a little bit and then get started. Feel free to say hello in the chat. Hiya, Bagbiz. Hello, Shepherd. How are you? Thank you, Cynthia. It's really short. Hello, Zelda from Miami. Hi, Nati. Hello. Oh, Shepherd, I'm happy you're here for a live. Hi, everyone. I'm going to jump right in. I hope you're all doing well. It's been a while since I've done a live. I don't do lives so often, but there's a lot cooking in the Hasidic community at the moment, and I wanted to talk to you about it. Namely, there is news, rumors that former President Donald Trump is going to be visiting my haunt in Hasidic Williamsburg, Gotti Lees Deli. And I was just there at Gotti Lees Deli. The plan is for, as the information is being passed around at the moment, the plan is for him to be visiting tomorrow, Thursday, September 19. I don't even know if I put the correct date in the title of this video. And I went there to try to learn a little more about what's going on, and the entire community is up with it, and I really wanted to share a little bit of that with you all here. So, hello everyone. So before I tell you what I found and what I experienced when I was there and what I am thinking about in terms of sharing with you tomorrow, I want to say some things. I know that people will unfollow me when I talk about this subject. It's already happened on Instagram. It's happened on my other channel where I posted the announcement of the Trump visit. I've gotten some really harsh comments, and I'm okay with that. If me talking about this issue means that you don't want to follow my work, I understand that. But I do feel like it is necessary for me to set out where I come from in my coverage of the subject, to lay out on the table my own perspective in this. Personally, I am not big on politics at all. I am not the kind of person who likes politics. I am actually not the type of person who likes to look at the world top down. I don't have a particular fascination with big personalities. I was never the fan kind of person when I was Hasidic. I wasn't interested in rabbis. I feel like these larger than life figures are so unrelatable to the everyday human experience, and they often get more credit for their role in shaping society than ordinary people. My fascination has always been bottom up, everyday people. And so my interest in politics is really limited. I also think American politics is extremely toxic, extremely divisive, extremely black and white. People have staked out positions of moral certitude that to me seems much, seems divisive, and I don't want to participate in that. I'm not a fan of anyone in politics. I'm not a fan, like I said, of political people. There is a lot of corruption in politics, but I also don't think that Trump is the literal next Hitler. And so I don't come at this from a place of I must condemn this evil person. So if that's your moral position, we are at a crossroads from the beginning. And I understand if that means you don't agree with the premise of where I come from with this work. So I see myself as a humanist. I see myself as a critical thinker who can live in a world with people I disagree with. Um, and I am okay with a kind of ambiguity, and I'm trying to come to this with as much of a humanism as possible, and that is the case with all of my work. I'm kind of a very open-minded person, I think, with regards to I don't see the world in a very conservative way, I think. And I'm completely okay with learning about people who see the world differently, and with appreciating what they see and the richness in what they see, and appreciating the differences. And so when it comes to covering politics, especially with regards to covering politics in the community that I cover, I am okay with differences. And with differences, I'm not talking about particular differences. There are the differences with Israel, which people feel so strongly about, and I also feel very strongly about. And I'm still listening to people and trying to get a sense of where they come from and trying to appreciate what their perspective is. So that's where I come from here. I'm not making an endorsement. I am very, very excited, though, about the excitement around all of this, because in the end of the day, the possibility that a former president who is running for president again, visiting this community, is absolutely animating the entire community into almost a holiday. So I went down there to see what's going on, and I visited Gottlieb's, and this is what I learned. So Menashe said that Menashe is there are two Gottlieb's. Okay, let me start. Gottlieb's was formed in 1962. That's what Menashe told me today, if I remember correctly, by his grandfather. He was raised to be open to everyone, and that is his mantra with regards to welcoming all customers. It's a very, very wonderful place. I take my tourists there, and they're very welcoming. And the second Mr. Gottlieb is the son of the original Mr. Gottlieb is now Mr. Gottlieb Senior, semi-retired, and the grandson is Menashe, who sort of runs the place and who's the one who I spoke to today and who you might have seen on the media, who's been talking about the experience. So I was there today, and Menashe told me that on Sunday, the Secret Service came to Gottlieb's and they said that a high profile figure wants to visit. And when they spoke to him, they said, we cannot tell you who that high profile person is. But Menashe had heard from the local precinct and from everyone in the community leaders that it's Trump. And so he told them, I hear that Trump is the person that's going to be visiting. And they said, if that is the person, are you okay with that? In other words, he has not gotten confirmation, but it seems fairly certain. There is a possibility he's going to be a different high profile person. So at this point, everyone is kind of like Trump is coming, but it has not been officially confirmed. So that's one thing. We're waiting tomorrow to find out, is he going to show up? One person told me, I'll see afterwards. And if he does show up, I'll be upset that he didn't come to my establishment. That was one person I spoke to. But as it stands now, it looks like he's going to be coming and that they're going to be blocking off the streets. And I don't know, I'm trying to get an opportunity to be in there. I really want to be in there. I don't have a press pass. I'm going to be working on that. So if ever another opportunity like this comes up, I can have a press pass. But they told me that they understand my desire to be in there. Everyone wants to be in the restaurant when Trump is there. So that's where the news is at now. I've been talking to a lot of people up and down on Roebling in the vicinity of the restaurant and asking them how they feel about it. And I filmed some of it, and I am going to publish those tomorrow in like a compilation. People were very open. They were very also excited. They largely expressed to me appreciation, a desire to support Trump, a desire to vote for Trump, an affiliation with Trump. I spoke to maybe 30 people, and I did not get a single Harris voter. Everyone was like, "We're very excited he's coming." For various, like, some people were talking about Israel. Not many people talk about immigration. People talk about the economy, security, but I did not get the sense really that anyone was resistant to Donald Trump. There seems to be a very pro-Trump environment in the community. And that actually is really a fascinating moment. And that's really why I'm so drawn to this moment. I published a video with a commentator who I really respect, Ellie Spitzer from the UK, which is ironic. He's in the UK, but he speaks about this community in all of its place locations, including Israel, the UK, and the US. And he talked about this community becoming vocally more aligned with the right in the United States. And he theorized that a part of where that alignment with the right might come from is possibly from a confidence which the older generation, which were Holocaust survivors, didn't have. They had that attitude of "God bless the czar, but keep him far from us." In other words, a, a, a humility in the face of politics, almost to the point of not feeling entitled to much besides keep your head down and try not to get into trouble. And that seems to have evolved. This community's changed a lot. There's been so many changes. The fact that I am so welcomed, I think, speaks to one of that. And the fact that people are largely so sympathetic to Trump from what I am seeing is, I think, another manifestation of that. And that's also very interesting. There's also the element that Trump is paying attention to this community, right? Um, that he is coming. Someone told me, well, if Harris would come, then we will talk. There's also the element of the Gzaitis HaChinuch, which is the issue of the education, which the community is extremely determined to preserve its education for the boys as it sees to be valuable and the priority, which is to center it on religious subjects and not secular subjects. And they have been wanting to lobby with Trump, who they feel is a better ear for this issue than Harris. So they feel that with Trump, there's a possibility for the community to advance its own personal agenda. So there's not just an affiliation with larger American politics. There's a personal community agenda which seems to be with a sense that Trump is the ally of this population. So that's what I have been seeing in the streets. That's my experience. There's a very strong shift of allegiance with Trump. The news I got today was that the Satmar Rabbi Aaron Teitelbaum went to Manhattan to visit what was believed to be a visit with Donald Trump, and ended up being a visit with Eric Trump, with his son. And the reason the rabbi went, the reason the rabbi made a visit, usually the politician comes to the rabbi. The reason the rabbi went all the way to Manhattan to Trump Tower to meet with Trump was in order to advocate specifically, especially for the issue of education for the community. So there was a hope that he would speak to Trump on this issue. The Satmar Rabbi Aaron Teitelbaum, this particular rabbi, there are two Satmar rabbis, is on record criticizing the community for being too pro-Trump. So it's interesting that while he criticized people for being too fanatical about Trump, to becoming too cultish about Trump, he also was willing to go out of his way to meet with Trump if there was an opportunity to advance the community's agenda. And that turned out to be a visit with Eric Trump, with a promise to visit with Donald Trump closer to the elections. So we see again, even Aaron Teitelbaum, Rabbi Aaron Teitelbaum, who's known to be a little more of a nonconformist and um, who's been critical of the community's kind of like getting so swept up in Donald Trump, even he has um, felt it useful to meet with Donald Trump, to ally himself with Donald Trump, or to in some way make an indirect endorsement by going to see him because it benefited the community. So there's not just an interest with allying itself with the right, with getting swept up in politics, with the excitement that I think people are experiencing around the Trump campaign, in the sense that he's hard on certain issues, that he's good on certain issues that people feel are important, but there's also the element of the community's personal interest at play here as well. So tomorrow, I am thinking that I might be there. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I'm not quite sure that it's going to happen, but I'm hoping and thinking that I might go down there tomorrow and hang out and see what's happening. I really feel like it would bother me to eternity if I will be taking walking tours into Gottlieb's and say, "Oh yeah, there was this huge moment, this defining moment in this deli's history that I wasn't there to have any stories about." I'm really interested in going to collect the stories of what happens. So I might be there. And if I'm there, I might be live streaming some parts of it. I might fill you in on what's going on. I really don't have any concrete plans, but you feel free to check back. If Donald Trump doesn't end up coming, I might do a video to let you know what that is like in the environment. My hope is to be there and see what's going on. So that's my little update. Thanks all for listening. I'm not quite sure how to figure out what you guys are saying. But thank you, Diana, for I will not unfollow you. What's wrong with having an opinion? I really appreciate that. That is a very, very nice thing. Um, Someone says Trump 2024. Someone says Trump is a felon. I really, to be honest, I see these comments. These are like, to me, whatever your interpretation is, it's I'm more interested in the context in which these interpretations are coming from. When I lived in New York City, says Shugul, I would often come down to Williamsburg for the kosher food, best food in the whole East Coast, in my opinion. Isn't that a nice comment? Why is Gottlieb's restaurant the place he would visit? Why not one of the Rabbas? That is such a great question, Ellie Adler. Thank you for asking. My hypothesis is they don't want to take sides in the internal community dispute, and Gottlieb's is a really neutral place. So if they would go to Rabbi Aaron, half the community would be offended. If they go to Rabbi Zalman Leib, so there's this feud between two brothers of the Teitelbaum dynasty of the Satmar sect, and the Satmar sect is the dominant Hasidic sect, it's the largest sect today. And there are two factions, and if Trump sees one brother, the other brother's followers are offended. So I think they understood. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but it is my assumption that they understood to stake out a neutral place. And Gottlieb's is a really neutral place. When I was there today, Menashe, who's like really sweet, no pretenses, very down to earth guy, was like, people want us to redo the restaurant. They want us to change this whole place around to make it up to date in order to welcome Trump. And I was like, no way. We're leaving it as it is with these plain chairs, everything old school as it is. The only offer he accepted was someone offered to wash the sidewalks outside, and he accepted. And you can actually see footage circulating now of that, a whole crew. When he said people are washing sidewalks, I thought one person's going to come with a bucket, but it's actually a whole crew is washing the sidewalks. So the Gottlieb's Deli is not only a neutral establishment, it's also a very old school establishment. It's very old, and it is not swept up in the contemporary culture. So it's not like they're picking one of the nice new restaurants and alienating all the other ones. They're picking a very unique, iconic spot. And I think politically it makes a lot of sense. That's my thinking. Sarah says, more to the point, we don't get to know what is going on in the Hasidic community as local news doesn't report that stuff. Yes, and also what's really interesting is as this community is growing and the internet is changing it, the community internally is starting to create media, which, by the way, sometimes I translate. Today I translated their report with Menashe Gottlieb. So they're starting to create their own media. They're starting to have their own voice, which is a really interesting another moment. The Al-Quin Project, thank you so much. Could you do a future video on Sephardic Jews? Thank you so much. I would love that. I am actually a fellow at the Mandel Institute Cultural Leadership Program, and we are learning there right now about Sephardic Jews. and I'm learning so much, and I'm hoping through there to learn about people, authors that I want to interview so that I can start to expand. I've been told I'm Ashkenormative, which is a word you don't know when you're Hasidic, and is definitely true, but also I'm interested in other Jews. It's fascinating. Class Dragon says, as a Swede living in one of the most secular and liberal countries in the world, I find all this very interesting since it is so foreign to me. Yeah, I hear that. Sage says, in my opinion, I would agree, but again, it is still interesting to learn about. My Israeli family loves him, and they don't live here even. Today, I actually saw a guy at Gottlieb's who was so excited. He came to check out Gottlieb's. He was very sweet. He allowed me to film him. He was willing to talk to me on camera, and he was like, "I love Trump." So I said, "Are you voting for him?" And he said, "Unfortunately, not. I'm Canadian citizen." As a tour guide, I'll have a group of tours and I'll show them the newspaper, and people are very opinionated about politics. I try not to talk about politics when I can help it, but let's say I read the headline, and people from Australia will be like, "Oh, terrible, terrible about political American political stuff." The whole world is very invested in this very divisive, very, what to me seems toxic situation in the United States political arena. Jennifer says America is pretty Ashkenormative for the most part. It's nice being the PNW with a larger in the PNW. What's the Pacific Northwest with a larger Sephardi population? We have a really nice Sephardi population. I've been to their synagogue here in Midwood, Brooklyn, and also we have in Forest Hill, we have a Bahari. It's not so Ashkenormative. There are nice representations of other populations. A Greek synagogue in the Lower East Side, Manhattan, which I guess is, I don't even know where you categorize that. But on YouTube, we have a nice representation of a couple of Sephardi creators, which is really nice, and I learned from them. Tony Thomas says, Shalom, very strange that he is campaigning in New York City. Desperation is sinking in. I hope Kamala and her Jewish husband also visit. Someone called her today the woman. They said, if I said, could it be a different high profile person that's coming tomorrow, not Trump? And they said, well, we don't think it's the woman. And I'm like, who's the woman? Because I thought they knew that it was a Republican, but they weren't told the political allegiance. They were just told it's a high profile person, and everyone believes that that high profile person is Trump. Robert, hi, it's so nice to see you. It's big happening in Williamsburg, worthy of attention. Yes, amen, right? I think so. These people are very lucky to have him come and visit. His own granddaughter is Jewish. He's a major supporter of all Americans. It's so interesting to touch on this topic and get so many comments from Jews who, some of them believe that he is, one person said, the Antichrist, which is interesting turn of phrase for a Jew to use, but like believe he's the worst person in the world, and other people think that he's the Messiah. Which is very interesting. Like, Jews are very split on this, it seems. Shalva says, hope you get a press pass. Thank you. I do think it would be amazing. He's disgusting excuse for a human being, says Sarah. Sarah, I met on my tour and was at Gottlieb's. It's nice to see you here. I have to believe for my own sanity that good will prevail over outright evil. Shepard says, truly appreciate you taking the time and care to accurately and diligently sharing these unique, underreported perspectives. Thank you so much. I'm happy Trump is highlighting such a special section of Brooklyn. You know what? That is so true. This is a very, this is a piece of New York City's cultural landscape that is being highlighted through this high profile visit. I also, like, there is so much culture in Hasidic Williamsburg that people don't know about. People will go to Katz's Deli, they'll wait in line forever. And then there is such a quaint, authentic deli in Williamsburg, and people don't even know about it. And I think it's really nice that it's having these high profile moments, which of course is changing it. Everything is changing this community. My work is changing this community, but it's like, it's really nice to see the kind of the story making around these institutions. Someone says, remember Rabbi Rubashkin. Rabbi Rubashkin was, I believe, Chabad rabbi, Hasidic rabbi, who was arrested for employing, forgive me if I'm not repeating the story entirely accurately, for employing illegal workers, and he was imprisoned, and Trump pardoned him, and the community is very grateful to him over that. So that's also one of the reasons why people feel very positively towards Trump. David says, do you ever go to Bar Park and try to discuss other Hasidim besides Satmar and Lubavitch? David, you should know that actually Williamsburg is fairly diverse. It's not only Satmar. There are a lot of sects, although Satmar is, I would say, today very dominant and casts a large shadow on all other sects except barely on Lubavitch. Lubavitch is its own thing. I do go to Bar Park, but Bar Park is I went to Bar Park once trying to get people to talk to me about politics, and people were less open than in Williamsburg, I guess because they don't know me. I do visit there every so often. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. Rachel is like my friend in the UK. And yes, it is live. You did not miss it. I hope it's not a crazy hour in the boondocks for you. I don't know why Motorhead says Kamala's husband is not Jewish, or Kamala. As far as I know, he is. I'm going to embarrass myself because I will show how little I follow politics if I say anything. Motorhead says Toda Rabbah, Shalom. Samuel says, I'm joining now, but I saw all these messages about Secret Service at Gotti Lees. Yeah, that's also a part of what's so fascinating to me. All of these places that I'm all the time, I'm wondering, what are they going to do to secure these places after 2 assassination attempts? Like, what goes into that? Do they allow the wine shop next door to continue to operate? Do they allow the postal service next door to continue to operate? What's going to go into this institution continuing to like this entire block full of life continuing to operate as normal with Trump coming after these 2 assassination attempts? And I was talking about it to some people yesterday, and they were like, I said, that must be the Secret Service is now like crazy vigilant after these 2 huge incidences. And they were like, no, yes or not, which is like mind boggling. But I asked all the nearby shops, are you being like, were you talked to by the Secret Service? And at that time, they had not been approached by the Secret Service. And this is earlier today. So I went to the nearby shops and I asked, like, have you gotten any special instructions? And there was nothing. Thank you so much, Ron. I really appreciate it. I have some Ashkenazi Romanian Jewish roots, and I wish to meet a nice Jewish girl in the future. Very nice. Today, actually, Vladimir, I met a woman who told me she's Romanian, and she said Romanians like are like this. That's what she did, apparently. I did not even know these stereotypes about Eastern European cultures that are very big in the Hasidic community, because there's a lot of different places people come from and there are internal stereotypes. Bernard says, ex-New Yorker, non-believer, strong Democrat. Thank you so much. There's some very scary parallels to be drawn between Trump, Vance, recent rhetoric surrounding Haitian immigrants, and rhetoric used before certain events last century. Rachel just got back from the running club, and it's 9 p.m. In the UK. Yeah, thank you. Faye says that Kamala Harris's husband is Jewish. Some people think you can question someone's Judaism if you don't like their politics. And the amount of security needed for a successful Trump visit, I imagine there will be a military presence felt on the street. But the people in the community are so excited that everyone is outside. And usually when I walk around and I ask people, can I film you? They're like, no, thank you. And the attitude now was much more like, okay, fine, which I think reflected, like, people are so excited. So what, everyone is going to be out and there's going to be a military presence? That sounds to me pretty crazy. Is this how it is anywhere he visits, or is it only with a Hasidic community, which is having a moment of feeling seen, of feeling I don't know. I feel like it's a pivotal moment in this post-Holocaust community story if Trump should arrive, and it will be a pivotal moment if there is that letdown and he doesn't arrive. I live in a different city, but a cultural significant secular area next to Orthodox Sephardic and Hasidic areas. Just wouldn't want any event so big it shuts down our daily lives. That is very true. I'm sure they would close down the block to public access for any big political figures or celebrity. Might not ask the businesses to close, but people wouldn't be able to access them. That makes a lot of sense. Although I am imagining people are going to come out to want to try to see what's going on. By the way, I have met President Bush at the White House. My son has met Obama at the White House, and my father has met Obama at the White House. Is that weird? I think that's really weird. My family is like very involved in the community, and my former husband was very involved in community activism. So I got invited during President Bush's presidency. That was an experience. I'm wearing a scarf in that, in a picture there. And then later, my son's father took him to the White House and he met Obama. And my father, in his own right, got invited and went and met Obama. So I think there's a reverentialness towards politicians that's leading people in the community to want to maybe, I don't know, have the honor of meeting a president. I don't even know. Like, I feel like as an ex-Hasidic woman, no one is going to invite me to the White House. um, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that even. Maybe it's just my family. Raphael says Hasidim are okay with President Trump. We all understand security is necessary. Someone says Hasidim for Harris. That's very funny. That would be a funny lawn sign. Someone put Hasidim for Harris because I don't know, maybe someone would steal it. It would create a bit of an issue. He has much more security because of the attempted assaults on his life. I am glad he will be visiting. Will any of the Rabbas get to greet Trump? Seems like a very Satmar thing to do, like with the king of Romania. That is so true. So the story today was that Rabbi Aaron Teitelbaum was attempting to meet Trump at Trump Tower, but he was in the end set up for a meeting with Eric, with whom he was told he would have the most opportunity to affect change with regards to the education issue for the community. Also, a big issue for the community is the draft in Israel, which they're trying to lobby on, like put pressure on American politicians in order to put pressure on Israel, which because Orthodox Jews don't want to serve, Hasidic Jews don't want to serve in the army to a large degree. There's a conversation about if that is changing. But anyway, the Satmar community is definitely against the draft in Israel. And supposedly they were going to meet they were going to meet Trump for that. That didn't work out. He met Eric instead. So I don't know. There's a lot of internal like tension between the two brothers of the Satmar factions. And so the question of who's going to meet him makes it very complicated. The security should be for women in his presence. He's already been found guilty of sexual assault. Even after he admitted he grabs women by. Say one thing, stay safe. The insanity surrounding that man knows no bounds. That is very true. Martine says, very jealous of Seth right now. You know, when Obama was still senator, I was in Washington, D.C. for my birthday with my baby and my former husband. And we went to some political event where he was there, and we have a picture of me and my baby and Obama, actually, but still Senator Obama. So my son actually met Obama when he was very little, which is very strange. How likely is it for Rabbas to endorse Trump? How closely do communities like Satmar Lubavitch follow the political opinions of the Rabbas when voting? That is such a great question. I think when it comes to presidential elections, the feeling is that the community's vote does not carry the same kind of weight as the local elections. And so endorsements are more like a show than they are an instruction of like, if you want XYZ, if you want busing for your children, if you want lunch programs for your children, if you want the opportunity to send your children to a school that prioritizes Yiddish and Hebrew before English and so on, then you should vote for this local councilman and politician and so on. Whereas when it comes to presidential elections, there is a sense that the weight the community's vote carries is less. I think there is also a shift in the community, or at least, that's something I've been reading about and thinking about, is there a shift in the community where people are formulating their own opinions? They're listening to the news all the time. They're listening to the Hasidic news, and they're formulating their own opinions and deciding who to vote based on that. Like this gentleman who came to Gottlieb's Deli that I mentioned earlier, he came to check it out. He found out about Trump's visit from a hotline called Kalmavasid, which is in all Yiddish, run by a Hasidic man. And the gentleman who came to visit had this tiny little flip phone on which he had heard the news and was so excited by it that he took the bus from Borough Park and came to Williamsburg to check it out. Now, this is a man who's so sheltered that probably without Kalmavasid, he would have just read the official announcements from the community and followed that. But instead, he had a kind of independent source. Kalmavasid, I think, is independent. What he heard, how he found out, was an interview with Menashe Gottlieb, the proprietor of Gottlieb's Deli. And he got himself on the bus and he came to visit. In other words, he's getting information that's not top down from the leadership in the community, and that's causing people to formulate independent opinions. And I think that might be watering down the community leaders' power to direct the block vote. I was politically active without being politically active. Is that me? I registered then when I turned 21 in 1971. I re-registered as a Republican almost 2 years ago. The Dem Party has become too extreme. Eretz Yisrael is not the same as the state of Israel. They reject the state, not the land. Oh, thank you so much, Yvonne, for my dress. It is a dress. You can't see, but it is a dress. I'm gonna wrap it up. Um, Someone says that this is the epitome of making a deal with the devil, and that never turns out in anyone's favor. Civic community, from my experience as a Jewish convert and outsiders, they are much more diverse in opinions and expressions than most expect. This going into politics now makes about sense. This is very true. I really appreciate that I'm seeing a lot of different opinions here and that people are kind of expressing them. You know, I think that's the reality. People have very strong opinions, and my feeling is I'd rather be a container, do this on my tours if you want to share them, within reason. Say it. Other people will disagree than to say this is not a space that this is the acceptable opinion in this space. No anti-Zionists should be allowed to live in Eretz Yisrael. Send them back to Hungary. That is okay. I've come to the realization recently that the Hasidic community is anti-Zionist but pro-Israel, and perhaps one day I'll talk about that more. But the sentiments in the community are very favorable, largely towards Israel in recent years, which I think is another shift. The older generation, like Pearl that I interviewed, had a much more um, a much more anti-Zionist view that is like critical of Israel, boycotts certain things from Israel, doesn't fly LL, and so on. And the younger generation, I think, is feeling rather aligned with Israel, patriotic towards Israel, even while they're waiting for the Messiah and rejecting the premature return of the Jews to the land. Well, I'm going to thank you all so much for tuning in to this live stream today. It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to see so many people that I know, including you, Shandy from Montreal, who always says hi from Montreal. Thank you, Anaya. Really appreciate that. I am going to try to fill you in if I feel well. I'm going to be down there in Williamsburg tomorrow. So check back. I also have a second channel now where I put clips. I didn't want to litter my main channel with a lot of clips, so I tried something new. I put a second channel where I do shorts. You can check that out. Sometimes I publish short things there. So like sometimes I'll translate a little something that I feel like is like too spammy to put on my main channel. So if you don't mind being spammed a little, think of subscribing. And it was nice to see you all, and hi John, and a good night, and bye bye to all of you. Thank you, Tony. Shalom. Bye. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Marguerite. Good night. And Eric. Thanks, Jennifer.